Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Trey and I want to talk about Black Panther and Shang-Chi at the same time. And the reason why I want to talk about Black Panther and Shang-Chi at the same time is because curse Black Panther. Just goddamn it, curse Black Panther. And I know what you mean. You guys are probably like, what do you mean, Trey? Why are we saying curse Black Panther and stuff like that? Black Panther was a decent movie that ranked in over $1 billion at the box office. And yes, that's granted. But ever since they saw that Black Panther made $1 billion, especially for a solo film in the MCU, all of these companies been trying to create the Black Panther paradox effect, and it's the same thing that's trying to happen with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and it just doesn't work conceptually. You know what I'm saying? They took advantage of the black community at the time and used the MCU and superheroes at the same time to try to get as many people as they possibly could with Black Panther, and that's fine or whatever. But at the end of the day, it kind of ruins this whole diversity inclusion thing, because anytime they do something like that, they expect Black Panther money. That's what they expect. They expect Black Panther money for a lot of these franchises. So anytime they make any kind of changes or whatever to, or be like, oh, this is the first ever Asian, or this is the first ever Latino, or whatever, they want that paradox effect that happened with Black Panther, like a sort of like a lightning in the bottle. I think that was like a lightning in the bottle thing. We were on a high from Civil War, and then to see the first ever black superhero on screen. I'm not saying that was the first ever black superhero on screen. What I mean is the first ever black superhero that was created in comics in general, which is Black Panther. So of course the hype is there. And yes, Marvel kind of had like the first kind of thing, but they kind of ignored the past with that one as well. And that was a problem that I just had with the thing, because I kept hearing this is the first ever black superhero movie, and I'm just like, no, it's not. This isn't the first black superhero movie. There's been plenty of black superhero movies before Black Panther. Granted, this is the first ever, the first black superhero ever that's being brought to the big screen. That is true, because Black Panther is the first black superhero comic book character. Not the first black comic book character, but the first black superhero comic book character. So they kind of had something there. And what's happening is right now, and it's going to tie into Shang-Chi, is because all I'm hearing about Shang-Chi is how great of a representation it is or whatever. But I'm not hearing anything about the movie itself. Nobody's talking about the plot. Nobody's talking about anything else besides, oh, the movie shows great representation for Asian Americans in the right direction. Isn't Simu Liu Canadian, Chinese Canadian? So he came from China and then went and then lived in Canada or whatever. So how is this Asian American, first off? And Shang-Chi isn't Asian American though. From his backstory, he's from China. So again, what are we talking about? The character's not even Asian American though. He's the first Asian character. I mean, I guess he'll be the first Asian led movie in the MCU, but certainly not the first Asian American, because you didn't get an Asian American. You got Asian Canadian to play the role. So you're already being disingenuous already, and then all the articles that are talking about the movie, they're praising the movie, and all I'm hearing is about the representation and diversity. But why am I not hearing anything about the movie itself? I'm not really seeing that many articles talking about the movie itself. All I'm hearing about is how this push forward for Asian representation in the media, since Asian people never had representation in the media for a long time. what? Like, I mean, I guess Asian Americans maybe, but that ain't nothing compared to China. I mean, no, not even China. Scratch that. The whole continent of Asia, to be honest. Like, have you guys watched any martial arts movies? You know what I'm saying? Or soap operas or dramas, K-pop, anime, for God's sakes. Like, all of this is Asian characters or whatever and stuff like that. And you're trying to go on this whole we never seen it before until now thing, and that's so disingenuous to the movie. And that's why I'm saying I'm blaming the Black Panther for it, because it created this paradox where these companies think that if they put in a certain diverse or a certain checkpoint in anything, that it'll bring in the audience and it'll get that $1 billion draw that they want. But the problem is, nobody cares about Shang-Chi compared to Black Panther. Nobody cares about a race-swapped version of a character that's classically white. Nobody cares about a character that is LGBTQ if and whatever, if they don't have anything behind them. Black Panther had stuff behind it, and he was introduced in another movie that had the hype where it was just like, oh hell yeah, we gotta go see this. You didn't even introduce Shang-Chi in nothing. You didn't introduce Shang-Chi in nothing. So why would I be excited about that kind of stuff? What you should have did is introduce Iron. The movie should have been called Iron Fist and Shang-Chi. And, it could have been titled Iron Fist and Shang-Chi, Legend of Kunlun. You know what I'm saying? At least you had name behind Iron Fist. Yes, the Netflix one was pretty terrible, pretty crappy. But what you could have did is you could have brought in Danny Rand, white. The guy is white, everyone. And you could have had like this kind of polar opposite thing, where you have a Chinese boy who grew up in China, but migrated over to the West, while you have a white boy who grew up in the West but migrated over into the East when his parents died. You know what I'm saying? So you can have this kind of opposite polar thing where you have this Asian guy who is so far westernized, and then you have a Westerner who is Easternized, to the culture of Asia. You get what I'm saying? That could have been a better movie than Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm sorry. Because at least you had some kind of brand behind it. So you have a character like Luke Cage and Danny Rand behind the character. You could have introduced him into some kind of movie that would have worked or something like that. That's what I'm saying. At least Iron Fist had a name, so people were familiar with him. Now, you could have recasted Danny Rand. I could care less if you recast him or not, but at least it would have been something. That would have gave Shang-Chi some validity, because then you could have spent his movie, the character, off into a solo movie. But after you had introduced him into a movie that was like, oh God, this character is impressive. You know what I'm saying? But you got to put these characters in movies that people care about. And the way that you're doing the thing that you're doing with Ironheart, where you're trying to put her in a Black Panther sequel movie without Black Panther, is a setup for failure, because you're already doing a movie with a character. I mean, you're doing a sequel to a movie where the character isn't even there anymore, and the characters that are left are characters nobody really cared about. I mean, yeah, we care about those characters, but what I mean to say is, like, you go and watch Black Panther for Black Panther. You don't go and watch Black Panther for Shuri and Dira Milaje. I'm sorry, you don't. You really don't. It is what it is. And you're trying to put in Ironheart, so when her MCU show comes out, people be like, oh yeah, that girl was amazing or whatever and stuff like that. When in reality, she wasn't. You know what I'm saying? it's kind of one of those things. But I mean, I just would have tried to put it in a familiar property that would have worked out for Shang-Chi. I think Shang-Chi needed to be in a movie that could, or a show that could have showed him off first. Then you do the solo movie. But you're trying to market off of this Asian American thing where Asians never been represented on TV and stuff like that, which isn't true or whatever and stuff like that. But at the same time, you have to understand what the population of the United States is mostly is. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of find it kind of funny that that's what we're focusing on instead of, is the movie good? Because I'm not saying that the movie's going to be bad. It probably might surprise everybody and turn out to be an amazing movie. But there's no talks about it. There is no talks about the movie. So I don't know what to say. There's hardly no talks about the movie. I don't really trust any early reviews or Rotten Tomatoes. Like, people are trying to be like, oh, look, it's 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, and when the movie come out and people don't like it, what are you guys going to do? You're going to protect it. So I don't trust hell of beans of Rotten Tomatoes or anybody that had early release to it. Certain YouTubers, sure, but most people I don't trust, because we already know that you guys are just lying about the whole situation just to try to hype you up about the stuff. But, you know, hey, it is what it is. But I think it could be an interesting movie, but at the same time, there are better martial arts movies that you can just watch. You don't really need to really watch Shang-Chi, because what is Shang-Chi bringing to the table? Because the villain, the Mandarin, is an Iron Man villain, and Iron Man is dead. So my connection to the character, the villain, is already kind of done because of the fact that Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man is dead before the real Mandarin showed up. So I don't know what to tell y'all, but yeah, that's really it. I just don't like the fact that we're using Black Panther paradox as trying to bring in diverse stuff and trying to pander towards it. It was a lightning in a bottle moment, companies, and I need you to learn to let it go. Thank you. But tell me what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.